One coaching choice could reshape the entire college football landscape, and Lane Kiffin is right in the middle of it. As the college football playoff approaches, the Ole Miss head coach finds himself weighing a franchise-altering decision: stay in Oxford and chase history with the Rebels, or bolt for LSU and a massive new deal in Baton Rouge. And this is the part most people miss. Whatever he chooses won't just affect one program, it could shake up the playoff picture, the SEC power balance, and the coaching carousel all at once. Content on this page may reference affiliate relationships. If you choose to click a link and sign up or place a wager, the publisher may receive a commission, but your cost remains the same. Stay locked in here for rolling coverage and fresh angles as Kiffin's long-awaited decision finally comes to a head. November 29, 2025 at 4:11 p.m. Eastern Time approximate. 1-minute read. Kiffin's decision crossroads. It has turned into a true judgment day for Lane Kiffin. The most in-demand coach on the market is expected to pick one of two dramatically different paths: remain at Ole Miss, which is on the verge of qualifying for the college football playoff for the first time in program history, or accept an offer from LSU, which is hunting for a new leader after firing Brian Kelly in October following a 5-3 start. But here's where it gets controversial. Whichever way he leans, one fan base is going to feel completely blindsided. Florida was once a serious contender for Kiffin's services, but the Gators now appear to have slipped out of the race as they search for a successor to Billy Napier. Kiffin said Friday afternoon, not long after Ole Miss handled rival Mississippi State 38-19 in the Egg Bowl, that he feels compelled to make a firm call on his future by Saturday. For a coach who often plays things close to the vest, that level of clarity about the timeline raised eyebrows across the SEC. Kiffin's mindset and timing. Kiffin explained that he intends to take time for prayer and reflection before landing on a final answer, noting that he would turn his full attention to the decision on Saturday rather than immediately after the game. He emphasized that he tries to live life one day at a time, a mindset he says he has leaned on for roughly the last 5 or 6 years, and that this approach has helped him navigate pressure-packed moments. Some fans might see that as stalling, but to others, it sounds like a coach trying to avoid an impulsive move that could define the rest of his career. Adding another layer of complexity, Ole Miss still has a path to the SEC championship game. Number 16 Texas knocked off number 3 Texas A&M on Friday night, eliminating the Aggies from contention and clearing part of the logjam. If Auburn can pull off an upset of number 10 Alabama on Saturday, it would trigger a rematch in Atlanta between Ole Miss and number 4 Georgia, the lone team to hand the Rebels a loss this season. Imagine the drama if Kiffin's future is decided just as Ole Miss stands on the doorstep of both an SEC title shot and a CFP run. The SEC title and CFP clock. If Kiffin opts to leave, the move would have to happen before both the SEC championship game and the college football playoff get underway. The calendar matters here. The early December signing period and the one-time winter transfer portal window, which opens in the first week of January, push schools to move quickly on coaching hires. Programs cannot afford uncertainty during recruiting and transfer season, which is why LSU and Ole Miss are each pressing for clarity rather than letting this saga drag on. And this is the part most people miss. Timing can be just as important as money or prestige in these high-stakes coaching decisions. Live Coverage Hub. Updating live. 7. See new posts. Reading the latest tea leaves. The current buzz among multiple people connected to both LSU and Ole Miss is that momentum seems to be tilting toward Kiffin ultimately landing at LSU. Several around the situation sense that the Tigers are in a favorable spot, at least for the moment. However, one source cautioned that when it comes to Kiffin, assumptions are dangerous, noting that everything could hinge on how his upcoming meeting with Keith Carter, the Ole Miss athletic director, actually unfolds. Kiffin is scheduled to sit down with Carter this afternoon. That face-to-face conversation is widely viewed as the turning point in the entire saga, as it is expected to set the stage for either a renewed commitment to Ole Miss or the beginning of a new chapter at LSU. Could this meeting turn into a surprise plot twist that flips all the current expectations on their head? The key meeting with Keith Carter. The drawn-out Lane Kiffin storyline is finally expected to reach its climax soon. Reporting indicates that Kiffin will meet with Ole Miss AD Keith Carter this afternoon specifically to reveal his decision: either stay in Oxford and continue building on what he has started, or leave for LSU and a fresh challenge. There is an air of finality around this meeting, as if everyone involved understands that the waiting game is over. One notable detail: LSU had anticipated holding a final call with Kiffin today, but he reportedly declined that conversation. Inside LSU's camp, some interpret this as a positive indication that he is preparing to leave Ole Miss for Baton Rouge, since he may not feel the need for further talks. At the same time, trying to decipher subtle signals in a Kiffin-related story has proven risky before, so all parties remain on edge awaiting an official announcement. Do you think reading body language and scheduling quirks is meaningful, or are people just overanalyzing every move? Decision before the Iron Bowl. Adding yet more suspense, Kiffin is expected to announce his choice before Auburn and Alabama square off in the Iron Bowl. If Auburn pulls off the upset, Ole Miss would punch its ticket to Atlanta to face Georgia in the SEC championship game. That means Kiffin could, in theory, decide his future before even knowing whether the Rebels are headed to a conference title showdown. It's a wild scenario, a coach choosing between a potentially historic run with his current team and a lucrative, high-profile jump within the same league. If he does depart, the expectation is that he would not be permitted to coach Ole Miss in any remaining games, not in an SEC championship appearance, and not in the college football playoff. That stance isn't shocking, given that he would be joining a rival SEC program, and programs typically want to move on quickly in those situations. Still, it ramps up the tension around his decision, since leaving now could mean walking away from the very postseason he helped the Rebels reach. Is it fair to bar a departing coach from finishing out a dream season, or is that simply the cost of changing jobs in conference? Kiffin and Orgeron reunion buzz. LSU's pursuit of Kiffin has turned into one of the most talked about coaching searches in the conference, dominating headlines and talk shows alike. If the Tigers do manage to land Kiffin as Brian Kelly's successor, they already have some intriguing possibilities lined up for assistant coaching roles. One particularly eye-catching name is a familiar face in Baton Rouge: Ed Orgeron, the former LSU head coach who delivered a national championship in 2019. Reporting indicates that LSU would be open to bringing Orgeron back in some capacity on Kiffin's staff. Orgeron, who led the Tigers from 2016 to 2021, has been out of coaching since his dismissal 4 years ago, but recently signaled that he is open to returning. The idea of pairing Kiffin's offensive mind with Orgeron's recruiting and defensive line expertise would instantly become one of the most polarizing staff combinations in the sport. Orgeron's interest in LSU return. Orgeron has not been shy about how he feels regarding LSU. He has publicly expressed his love for the school, noting that he still owns a home in Baton Rouge and cherishes his time there, including his stint as defensive line coach under Les Miles. He has made clear that he loves the Tigers and wants to get back into coaching, and that he would absolutely consider a role at LSU again if the opportunity arose. For some fans, that sounds like a feel-good reunion. For others, it raises questions about whether programs lean too heavily on nostalgia when making staff decisions. This possibility has sparked a broader debate. Is it wise to reintroduce a former head coach into a new staff dynamic, especially in a reduced role? Supporters argue that Orgeron's recruiting ties and emotional connection to LSU could be invaluable. Critics counter that it could create awkward power dynamics or unrealistic expectations if things don't immediately go well. Potential staff structure at LSU. All of this sets up a scenario where, if Kiffin accepts the LSU job, he could step into Baton Rouge with not only one of the largest contracts in the game, but also a high-profile former head coach on his staff. That kind of arrangement would be unusual and likely divisive, even by SEC standards. It would also send a strong message that LSU is willing to use every possible advantage, tradition, money, and name recognition, to reload quickly and chase championships. The bigger question: would this kind of superstaff be a masterstroke or a chemistry nightmare waiting to happen? Fans on both sides of the debate will have plenty to say if it becomes reality. How Kiffin's move could alter Ole Miss' CFP path. Ole Miss' playoff position depends on more than just its record. two primary